Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Burnt Pancakes podcast, the podcast where we get real about the messiness of motherhood. I'm your host, Katie Fensky, and I remind moms that everyone burns their first pancake. Now, today we're going to cut through the chaos of baby registries and sleep schedules and mom guilt to talk about something that is very important in those early newborn days, and that is baby bonding. I'm excited to be joined by Dr. Joanna Parga-Belinkie, a neonatologist, board certified lactation consultant, and author of the Baby Bonding book. She's here to help us stop stressing about doing everything right and start focusing on what's really important, and that's just the connection and presence with your baby. So let's dive into baby bonding. Hello, Dr. Joanna Parga-Belinkie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Katie.
Well, why don't we start? Just introduce yourself by telling us where you're from and how old your kids are.
So I am from Philadelphia. Well, I'm not really from Philadelphia. I grew up in New York. I actually did live in LA for a little bit of time. So I was in California for some of my training. But I wound up in Philadelphia for my first job as a neonatologist or baby doctor. And I am a mom of 3 kids, ages 7, 5, and 1.
Okay, so being a neonatologist, did that prepare you for having kids? Or when you became a mom, was it like learning it all over again?
So yes and no. I think I had a lot of medical knowledge
Okay.
about infancy and newborns, and that does not directly translate into parenting your own children
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
building a relationship with them. So it wasn't I remember particularly because you hear about sleep deprivation before you're a new parent and you're
Hmm.
like, okay, and I was like, I'm going to be so ready for sleep deprivation because I've done 24-hour shifts. I've stayed up for days. This is going to be easy. And it is not when it is that cumulative sleep deprivation of having a new person live with you and having to take care of them. So
Hmm.
I think it helped inform a lot of things and when to worry. I tend to be one of those doctor moms who is on the side of less worry. I think we fall on a spectrum. But I'm always like, kids, it's fine. You're totally fine. And we don't have to go to the emergency room for that. But actually experiencing it is different. And I feel like I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm always learning new
Yeah.
things, both
Yeah.
in my job and in my parenting.
Probably helps you now relate more to your patients. Like, yeah, I know what it's like to be that tired. Now I get it. Yeah. One of my favorite sleep consultants, she started off as maybe a NICU nurse, labor and delivery nurse. And she was like, I thought like, okay, I've been delivering babies for years. Once I became a mom, totally fine. She was like, no, that's where I learned the real stuff is when it's your own kid. Because when it's your own kid, their cry just gets to you. When it's someone else's baby, oh, he's crying, whatever. But it's your own kid, you're like,
It's visceral. You get like a visceral reaction to it. You really feel
yes.
your own kids cry.
Oh
Yeah, I totally
gosh.
agree with that.
I was just at the pediatrician the other day with my oldest son, and there was a new mom there with her little baby, and I could just see her like stressing about like, oh, you're okay, you're okay. And I'm like, that cry does not get to me. It like I am not stressed about the cry, but I could see her just like, oh.
Well, it
So,
is interesting having a job as a neonatologist where I really want to hear that babies cry,
oh,
especially when they're first born.
yes.
So I'm trying to make them
Hooray!
cry a lot of times. But I think parents actually also really like that first cry. It's the subsequent cries that really
Mhm,
get to them.
mhm. The ones in the middle of the night or in public when you're like, yeah. Okay, so let's get into baby bonding a little bit because I think this is an a topic that I really want to delve into because my oldest was a C-section and I don't really feel like I had the bonding experience. Maybe it's because I was a first-time mom, maybe it's because of his birth, maybe, but I want to know more about that. So, why is bonding with newborns so important for them?
So it is really in the first year of life that the brain grows an incredible amount, like a phenomenal amount of connections are made in that first year. And you can kind of see it if you think about the different milestones that pediatricians look at as they're watching babies grow. You can think of those milestones as sort of brain development as well. So it's an incredible time. And the foundation of really solid brain growth is safe, stable, and nurturing relationships. And so that bonding with your baby, that making a connection with them is so paramount to how their brain is going to shape as they grow.
Interesting. So it doesn't have to just be, I missed it in that more, what do they call it? The golden hour. I didn't
Yes.
miss it. It could take place over.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up because as a part of my job too, I'm at a lot of deliveries where the unexpected has happened and this
Mm-hmm.
wasn't what the parents were hoping for and it wasn't the type of delivery that they maybe wanted. And you mentioned you had a C-section
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to say any mode of delivery is a good one.
Yeah, I am
I
so
think
thankful that he was born that
yeah.
way. Like
Yeah.
I tell my husband all the time, like he was breech, and if we lived out on the prairie, I would not have survived that birth. So the fact that I could have a C-section was great. Not what I had planned, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot that goes into that moment of birth, right? People have a lot of feelings about it, a lot of emotions, and a lot of times they're making a birth plan, they want it to go a certain
Hmm.
way. And I actually think that's great. I think it's great to think about delivery, to think about what you might want out of it, to know kind of what is going to be happening at the hospital. That's all wonderful. I also think it's important to realize that the birth is one of these times while it is this incredible moment it is a moment, right? And a lot of
Hmm.
times it doesn't go as you expected it might go. We were just talking about that, and it's a moment, right? And after that moment, no matter how that moment goes, there is most likely going to be this new human being that you're going to have this responsibility for, right? And so and that's what I feel like parents need to kind of shift focus on a little bit is, okay, now that I have this new relationship, how do I want that to look? And remember that relationships are not they're built on many, many moments over time, right? So even if that initial moment didn't go the way you wanted, if you think about most relationships in your life, like love at first sight is sort of a movie thing, right? It takes time to build
Totally.
loving, strong relationships in your life, and that is the same for with your baby.
That is so good to know because I did feel a ton of mom guilt with my oldest, feeling like, because we didn't even do skin to skin. Like I had the C-section. I didn't know what to say. Like I didn't know I could say, hey, can I hold him? So it wasn't until like, I don't know, an hour after when I'm back in my room that the nurse was like, oh, were you planning on breastfeeding? Maybe we should try that. I was like, oh, okay. Are we supposed to do that right now? I had no idea. My other two was just like right on me. But then I felt really guilty because I did not instantly feel that like loving mother bond. It was like, who is this alien child that I now have to take care of now that I'm tired and I'm exhausted? And I felt guilty that I hadn't instantly bonded with him. So you're saying that you didn't miss a window if you didn't
And
get it in
you're
the
not
first.
alone. You know, you're not
Mm,
alone in not feeling that instant magical love connection. People that do, that is wonderful. I
I
mean, that is
I
great.
envy that. That is great.
And but again, this is, you know, real life. It's such an emotional time and most birthing parents are at risk for postpartum anxiety and depression after they deliver. And so the feelings are not all good. There's also
Mhm.
many moms about they say they quote up to 80% in studies have postpartum blues. So even if they
Mm,
don't have
yep.
full-fledged anxiety or depression, they are feeling sad. I remember after delivering every single one of my babies, anything would make me cry. Anything.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing now, but I was crying then,
Right.
right after
Right.
the delivery.
And you can't
It
explain it. You can't
you
stop
can't,
it.
you
Yes.
can't. And you know, we mentioned this golden hour because you keep talking about, oh, I missed that time.
Mhm.
And the golden hour is great, particularly if you want to breastfeed. That's where the best data is for the golden hour, that it really helps with stimulating milk supply and getting that
Okay.
established. And how much it really influences bonding, we're not sure. It's really tough to do those studies to really see how it influences, like, again, a relationship that's going to be built over hopefully many, many years of your life,
Mhm.
right? And so missing out on that golden hour and having the delivery you didn't want doesn't mean you can't bond with your baby. It might delay, your initial interactions, kind of like you're describing, Katie, where it took another hour for you to really hold baby and have them in your arms and so it might delay those initial interactions, but it won't stop you from having a strong relationship with your baby if you work
Right.
at it.
Yeah. So what can some parents do in the first year to bond with their kids?
I think the first thing is just make sure that they know they have permission to do this, right? We have busy modern lives.
Hmm.
And so getting to know your baby is going to be, again, really important. The most important thing you could do for them developmentally. And what does that mean? It means a lot of active listening, right? Because the baby doesn't talk in the same way that we do. So, in the ways that they're going to communicate with you are different than how you and I are talking on a podcast.
Hmm.
So active listening is a skill, and there are different things you can watch out for in baby to start interacting with them. The first is when they cry, because we were just talking about cry. And cry isn't always you're a terrible parent, you've done something wrong.
Yes.
Like cry
Yeah.
is cry is more, I don't have another way to communicate with you.
I need
So
something.
I
Hmm.
need something. Yeah. And there are these really cool studies out of UCLA actually, where there was a scientist, a PhD, who made an app where you could kind of put your baby's cry in, and by the pitch and the tone of their cry, kind of have a sense of, and they had three big categories of, pain, which I think a lot of parents recognize a pain cry,
Hmm.
hunger, and then sort of like a general discomfort. But
Wow.
so if you're listening and paying attention to cries, you can often start to understand what it is that your baby's crying about, which is
Hmm.
helpful when you're trying to react to them. But again, cry means, hey, probably something's going on. I always say have a checklist ready of, okay, did I feed them? When did I last do that? Have I changed their diaper? What's the light in this room? How loud is it in this room? Different things in the environment that you can change too. And
Hmm.
then and then know that you might not figure it out, but it's the act of trying and listening and trying to connect with baby that they appreciate. And one of my favorite things to do to bond with a baby is something called serve and return. So it's like a tennis match almost between you and baby, where maybe the baby coos, right? You've probably seen these videos online of babies starting to vocalize. And I
Hmm.
remember I had this family come into the ED when their baby was like about a few weeks old. I can't remember exactly how many weeks. And I was a pediatric resident at the time because I'm trained in pediatrics as well. And they were like, my baby's making this sound. I'm really worried about this sound. And I'm like, okay. And the baby's
Get
quiet in
let's
the
get it
room.
to make it.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right. So I sit with the family and I'm waiting for the sound, and the sound is just like a ah, like the baby talk, like
Hmm.
starting to vocalize for what was the first time, I think, for this family. And they were like, there it is. And I was like, that is great that you are picking up on this. And then if you return that, right? So baby goes, and then you talk to them and you're cooing with them back and forth. That's
Hmm.
actually the beginning of language development right
Yeah.
there. And you'll start to notice some babies will actually repeat the coos back and forth, and that might, it seems silly, right? I think play is also really important with your
Hmm.
baby. You're kind of playing with them, but you're also building their brain, which is really cool. And you're teaching them like, hey, there's someone in my life who cares enough to listen to me. And so I'm going to try to talk to them because they care enough to listen to me. And again, it's that loving, attentive caregiver, not the caregiver that gets everything right.
We're
Relationships are
trying our
messy.
best.
Yeah, but the one who's paying attention, who's trying to
Mhm.
understand. That is what's most important for a baby.
Okay. Are there studies done on like firstborn babies versus third? I'm looking at with my first, I was in his face all the time. Like, you're awake. Okay. I'm playing with you. I'm talking to you. I'm doing this. With my third, I was like, you're awake. Okay. You're good. You're going to watch the brothers play over there. I'm going to get the dishes done. I wouldn't say I'm less bonded to him, but he got less of my attention in his first year than the other two.
That you're asking an absolutely wonderful question. There's certainly literature on birth order and
Okay.
how birth order might influence our parenting style and
Uh,
also a child's development. There's not a definitive sort of study I know on this, but I think anecdotally there's a lot of parents who report the same thing as you, which is just, that first baby gets that really focused
Mhm.
attention and tends to maybe be the more responsible, kind of dialed in, my first is at her heart an introvert. And so, but she is always watching what's going on and taking it in and has a better grasp on things than my third is too young to make a call on their personality. But I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
I think order probably has a lot of an impact on personality. But again, all babies are born with a temperament, right? And if you
Okay.
pay attention, you'll kind of get a sense of your baby's temperament from early on. Like I knew my first daughter was really introverted just because of how she acted as a baby, because she was very animated
Interesting.
with my partner and I, but was not animated with
Mm,
anyone else.
that
So
makes sense.
people falsely think she was a late talker because she was so quiet.
Oh,
But I was like, no, no, she would talk, just not when anyone
to
else was
anyone else.
no interest in showing off for anyone whereas my middle is very extroverted, and he was unfortunately a COVID baby, so he was
Yeah.
very would have loved people
Hmm.
talk. And my third seems to be a little bit of a mix, but is very fiery and has no problem telling you her opinion if she
That
wants something.
sounds
So
like my third. Like he
yeah.
is the spicy one of all of them, which is funny because when he was a baby, I think because there was just always something going on. It was COVID. So the oldest was home, the middle was like they weren't going to school, and he just had constant entertainment. But now I'm like, wow, he's spicy. He's got a
Yeah.
temper on him. And yeah, he's interesting.
So yeah, I wish I could quote for you better scientific research on that, but I think there is a lot of fun things you could read about birth order
That would be interesting.
that
Yeah.
you may find applied to your kids.
What about so just baby play in general? Because I found it when I was like a new mom, like trying to come out like, what do I do with this baby? Like there's all those like black and white toys and all this stuff, but sometimes you just feel like, am I doing this right? Or am I just like,
Well,
what am
but
I
you're
doing
bringing
here?
up a good point, right, Katie? Is that what is stimulating for a baby who's experiencing the world for the first time, learning how to see, figuring out where, they're doing so much,
Mm-hmm.
is not stimulating for us.
Not
It's
at all.
so boring.
Not at all. Like just looking at the trees was their favorite. I would just lay them on a blanket and they just like stare up at the trees. I'm like, this is great. Like maybe I can read my book while they do this.
I once had someone say to me that the parent is the baby's favorite toy, and they kind of
Mhm.
said it to me as like, you're your baby's favorite toy, and I was like, I'm not a toy. Like, I don't know, I didn't know how to take it at first,
Yes.
but I think the meaning there, I like the sentiment of that you're your baby's favorite toy, because really, as human beings, babies are really learning by those, again, relationships around them and how their caregivers are responding to them,
Hmm.
and they model after their caregivers. So they're sometimes basing their reaction on what your reaction is going to be, especially when they get closer to a
Oh,
year. And so they're watching you
that's
to know
interesting.
how to interact with their environment. And so that's
Mhm.
why I feel like play doesn't have to be, a half hour rattle in the face, though baby might really enjoy that. You might find that really fun. I think play can be just involving baby in your daily life. So,
Yeah.
when I was folding the laundry, I would do the parachute thing, with the
Mm.
sheet over my
Hmm.
baby, and that is play. That made them giggle and made them laugh, and I was also getting the laundry done. So it was
Yeah.
a double-edged purpose.
Win-win.
Yeah, yeah, and also, talking to them and obviously I like talking as we're doing now. I feel but I would narrate my life to them a little bit. This is what I'm doing. This is how I feel about it. This is where we're going next, and kids love that, especially babies, when you're engaging them in what you're doing. So play doesn't
Hmm.
have to be solely focused on the baby. It could be making sure the baby is just interacting with you while you're going about your day, because that's going to be really stimulating for them. And
Hmm.
it's always incredible. You mentioned like your baby just like the trees. If you take a 6-month-old out for lunch, like you probably put them down for a nap after, because being in
They're
that
exhausted.
restaurant with other people, there's talking, there's new food, it's
Hmm.
that is so stimulating, so much more for a baby than it would be for you or I.
Yeah, yeah. Is there something said about the mom voice? How you're like, whenever I talk to a baby or even a puppy or a dog, it's like, oh, how are like we just puppy sat or dog sat, my sister's dog, and the voice came out again. I was like, oh, do you need to go outside? Like, I'm like, why am I talking like this? I haven't done this in a while. But is that stimulating for babies' brains to have like, I don't, it has a name,
Mommies,
right?
I think it's called, I
Yes,
think I've
yes.
heard it called that too. It must be. I can't quote a good study for you on that, but it's again like that bright engagement of, oh, I'm interested in you, I'm excited by you, like what we're doing is exciting. And I think that that's what that does too, is it kind of kicks in for the infant that you're excited to be there and
Hmm.
and this is something you want and
Mommy,
you're
good
yeah,
morning.
like I don't know if you also is like I would sing all the time and still do, just making up songs about what I like the boring things that I'm doing. I'm trying to
Hmm.
remember what my song was last night. I think it was we were just, it'll be like a changing diaper song.
Yes.
And then I'll get really
During
into it.
potty training, we made up some really good songs.
Yeah, some great. Then you were like, why don't I write songs? I could do this for a living, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, that's
Uh,
funny.
but to be fair, I don't, I always feel like that first year you can never remember anything that you did
Mm-hmm.
like 5 minutes before either. So the fact
Yep.
that I remember that I sang something last night, I think is good for me. But but there is a bit of that, like you get that mush brain after delivery too,
Oh,
that
for
you have to
sure. I
refocus.
didn't they say it takes like 2 years for your brain chemistry to get back to normal, and then you're having your other baby. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so for about what was it, 6 years, I didn't have brain functioning. 7 years, it was just gone. It was mush for
And
a
then I don't
while.
know how old you are, but I had kids a little later. And then you like get into perimenopause.
Uh-huh,
So I
yeah.
don't think you ever, I think like
Yes,
if
then
you
we're
have kids
entering
when
the
you're
brain
older.
fog. I keep reading about that belly
Yeah.
fat brain fog, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's a thing now. Okay, great. What about baby carriers? Like, how does that help with bonding?
I think it does help just have so especially for your really little babies, and we were talking about the golden hour, but I work in the NICU, and for really little babies that are born maybe too early, that's a
Okay.
big population of premature babies that I see. We're always looking at their vital signs. So we're looking at things like their heart rate and their breathing and their oxygen levels, and we know that when these little babies get put skin to skin with their parents, it helps stabilize all of their vital
Mm.
signs. And you could see it on the monitors. And it's really cool because premature babies have trouble sometimes controlling their breathing and their oxygen levels. And you put them on their parents and it's like magic, right?
Wow.
Um, so when you are able to be close to a baby and you're holding them, let's say you're breastfeeding, let's say you've decided that's how you want to feed baby, it's going to help stimulate your hormones. It's going to help with that oxytocin release, which is a bonding
Mhm.
hormone for you and baby. And it may also stabilize the baby's vital signs. We don't, have that good information
Mhm.
in term babies because we're not monitoring all our babies that we take home from the hospital when they're healthy term babies, right?
Mhm.
So but there's something to be said for that closeness, probably for you as the caregiver and also for baby, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
helping. And so I was always a big fan of baby wearing. I always loved to do it. I could never quite
Yes.
figure out
The big
you
wrap.
know, yeah, the one that was just a big wrap. And I was always
Yeah.
jealous
Me
of the
too. My
people who
friend,
really got the wrap,
she had it down and it was like
Yeah.
perfect for her. And I would always have to
Yeah.
pull up the YouTube video and then I get a minute and I'm like, okay, it's crooked. This isn't working. So I stuck with the one with the snaps and
I liked the snaps one too.
me
I
too.
was into the
Which one's your
snaps.
favorite?
I have one that I've, oh my God, it's probably in this room, but we're doing a podcast. It's the Baby Bjorn one.
Which one?
Wait, hold on. Let me grab it. Let me grab
Okay.
it. Can I grab it
Okay,
to
yeah,
tell you?
grab
You could
it.
edit
Show
this
us.
out.
There's so many out there now. I felt like when I had them, there were like two or three types. Now there's thousands.
Yeah, there's the ring sling, there's the
Yes.
sling. There's some that are actually like built for your body, but you have to size them as
Oh.
slings, which I never liked those because I feel like your size changes so much around pregnancy.
Mhm.
Here, let me grab
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one because I've
Okay.
got it.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Ergo or ergo. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but
Ergo. It's an
yes.
ergo, baby.
Ergo. That was the one I had and I loved it. I think I used it until they were maybe two. I used it forever. Every
Yeah,
grocery store trip,
love
that's
this
what I
one.
put them
And I
in.
had the infant insert for when they were
Hmm.
little, so that they could be really close to my neck, so I could
Yes.
watch them breathing.
Yes.
And you could see this is like stained. This one I should
Uh-huh. Because
probably
they drool
wash.
on it. Hmm.
Yes, yes. So I still put my 1-year-old in this. She's like
Yes.
16, but she's very tiny little 1 year old. So she still goes in there.
Oh, totally. We went on a hike a little while ago and I told my husband, I'm like, do you remember the last time we did this hike? It's been years, but I'm like, I had Jet on me and I was doing this hike. Like he was with me in this little carrier. I'm like, it's been a while since we've done it, but whoa, like how did I do that? Carrying this big old kid around.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, so I really like baby wearing. You have to be careful of how you're positioning the hips,
Yeah.
or it's not the only way that you're carrying them. But I think that it brings a closeness, and particularly in those early days, if you're breastfeeding, it could help you
Hmm.
with getting your milk supply in
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maintaining it. So.
What would you say to um hold on, I missed it. Oh no, I'm going to ask you this one. Um, there's a lot of noise with babies and feeding and cry it out and this. What do you tell parents is like the most important thing?
Yeah, I often get parents being like, kind of like a little bit of the earlier conversation we were having. What do I need to get for my baby to make sure I'm prepared to have the baby? And
Hmm.
I remember for my first making this really extensive baby registry because I thought somehow having all these things would make me a
Hmm.
better parent. I don't know exactly what I was thinking, but you start to nest
Yes.
a little bit when you're,
Hmm.
especially at the end of your pregnancy. And then I sort of realized for my third that I didn't really need more than half the things that were on the baby
Oh,
registry.
for
It's like
sure.
almost like it's such a it can be a really difficult stage of parenting because it's so demanding because the baby
Hmm.
needs 24/7 care, and so you're always having to be on for a baby, whether it be you or another loving caregiver. And so that's one thing, if you could put it on a baby registry, just having other safe, stable, nurturing relationships around you as other caregivers for baby is so important for mental
Yes.
health, for baby's development, for caring for this very demanding person that needs you throughout the
Hmm.
all hours of the day and night, right? So I
Day
think that
and night.
that
Totally.
that is and then if you have those other safe, stable, nurturing relationships, you're sort of modeling those for a baby too. And remember, modeling is really important for how kids grow. They see how their parents are doing things, and that's how they want to do things too, because their brain is just being wired that way.
Yeah.
Um, what was the initial question? Sorry, because I did have a point I wanted to
Um,
get back to you.
what really meant like
Oh,
you hear about feeding, you hear about sleep training, you
yeah.
hear about like all these things, but what really is the most important thing?
Well, that's where I want to get back to. So, you making sure you have these safe, stable, nurturing relationships is so important. But at the end of the day, you are really enough. You
Mm,
don't need to buy all these things. You need to, and I always tell parents to take a step back. And what I really love doing with my third baby that I hadn't thought to do with my first and second is make a vision board for kind of the relationship I wanted to have with them, the qualities that I really wanted to pass down to them, what my legacy with them would be. So I got
mm,
into some big thinking about this relationship with this child, and the vision board was a really nice way to do that. And then it reminded me, the things that are really important to me are not commercial things or material things. They're
right.
qualities. There's time spent there. And I feel like knowing that you're enough, that you don't need all these other things, and really focusing on the type of person you want to raise, I think could help drown out some of that noise of
Right.
that very demanding and sleep deprivation time of
Yeah.
parenting.
There's this trend going on, I think on TikTok or Instagram where it's um I forgot this is what it was really all about or supposed to be about. And it's just like a kid just playing, or just like this simple moment at home. And you're like, yeah, you're right. Like we went to the beach yesterday and my middle son was like, Mom, I really want to play soccer at the beach. Like, I want you to play soccer with me. And I was like, oh, you want me to play? Okay. And like, it was so boring. I did not enjoy playing, but I was like, but this is what it's
See,
about.
I was just
Like
gonna say, like,
going
oh,
to the
that's
beach.
better than the rattle, you
Oh,
know?
but it was also like, okay, like it's really crowded around here and it's hot right now and we're getting all sandy. But I was like, but he asked me to play. Like he usually, when it comes to sports and stuff, it's like, oh, dad will play. And so I was like, oh, that's so sweet of him. Also, I did not love playing soccer on the beach with him, but it was like, oh, this is really all that matters. It doesn't matter that we have like the cool boogie board and the this. It's like, I just want to be at the beach and play with you. And our soccer ball was like half flat too, but he was just like, oh, this was fun. He did say at the end, this was the best day. It was so great. I'm like, so sweet. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
So,
And that's what it's all about, play and having
mhm.
fun and that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Tell us about your book, the baby bonding book. What inspired you to write that?
I've taken care of many, many babies. There are some really other great baby books out there that are great reference books for when you have a question on baby and you want to know. You were mentioning things like sleep training, but none of the books were very narrative and kind of telling stories and sharing uncertainties, which is
Mm.
such a big part of newborn parenting. So I really wanted to make something approachable that families could pick up and read and maybe see a little bit of themselves in. So it's very narrative based about stories of the many babies I've taken care of, including my
Mm.
own. And I'm hoping it's something that people can connect with and realize, there are things to do to keep your baby safe, right, and help them
Yeah.
thrive. Um, but that stability and that nurturing is something that you can grow over time as you grow your relationship with your baby.
I love that. And it makes it feel more like you can enjoy this phase as well. Because so much of it is keep this baby alive, make sure they're on this, make sure they do this. And you forget, like, it doesn't feel like it at the time, but this is just a snapshot in their little life. Like, it is going to go fast. And like, I look back now and I'm like, I would give anything to just have them nap on me again. Like, I don't think I enjoyed it enough when I was like, nope, I've got to put them in their crib so that they sleep in their crib and I can get laundry done and get this done instead of just being like, look how sweet you are. I just want to hold you.
Yeah, we call our house a happy mess now. I
Mhm.
think you're
Yeah.
seeing some of the happy mess because it's not going to be forever. And
Yes.
you really have to try to enjoy those moments. But
Yeah.
again, it was really demanding to parent
It
those little ones.
it's hard in the moment when you're feeling it. And then you look back later and you're like, oh yeah, that did go pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah, it was more control than you thought you had as they get
Yes, for
bigger
sure. For sure.
and really can vocalize their needs. So
Yeah. Okay. Tell us where we can find you and your book.
you can find me. I'm mostly on Instagram. Joe Parga-Belinkie, MD is my handle. So definitely look for me there. I'll post about the book and also about my family at times. I do a lot of work for the American Academy of Pediatrics.
Oh,
So they
awesome.
have a parent-facing arm of the American Academy of Pediatrics that's great for parenting advice and also kid issues. And it's called Healthy Children. So if you go to Healthy Children, definitely can look up good information there. And I do videos for them as well on their Instagram that often include my kids. So you could see them in those. And then the book is being published by the American Academy of Pediatrics. So you can get it there or anywhere else where you buy books. But it's good, I think, to buy direct from the publisher. So check
Mm,
out the American Academy of Pediatrics publishing.
that's awesome. Well, congrats on writing a book. And thank you for all you're doing for us as moms and new parents.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me, Katie. And this was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Special thanks to Dr. Parga-Belinkie for coming on and sharing everything she knows about baby bonding, that special time with your newborn. I feel like every new mom needs to hear this. So if you know someone who is about to have a baby, please forward them this episode and check out the baby bonding book. I have it in the description below. So until next week, moms, I want to remind you that everyone burns their first pancakes, so just keep flipping.